CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Here's another episode of CMMS Radio recorded from Streamline out in Greenville, South Carolina in February. This is with Joe Caetano of Elevotec.
Back and looking back some years, and you can tell that by the color of my beard. Coming out of school, I was fortunate enough to get into the poultry industry, and that's from egg to frying pan. And, you know, I was able to grow through that. I started in maintenance stores, just handing out parts, eventually made it into the planning side of the house, into the capital side of the house, and eventually I owned all maintenance and engineering. And it was just a fascinating journey, just learning all of the things that go into our lives every day of asset management. And, you know, back then, this whole dub about asset management, you know, it certainly is magnified today, and we've been doing it for hundreds of years. You know, it was really fascinating just understanding how much we actually need to do, and, you know, how important it is to really pay attention to our equipment, pay attention to the things that we do. You know, with poultry or food or water or different things like that, there's a compounding factor because we're feeding people. And the last thing we need to do is, you know, have them be sick, or even worse, not have food.
Yeah, so, I mean, speaking of that, it keeps reminding me of this idea that so many of us out here moving through the world, we take a lot for granted.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And we don't necessarily, I mean, some of it's by design, right? We don't want you to have to worry about it, and we've got our maintenance people and our reliability experts and this great, you know, manufacturing processes that are designed to kind of make things safe, consumable, keep us sustained, right? Sustenance.
Yeah.
But we don't realize that these machines, the people, the process are all really working together. We don't understand what's really happening behind those scenes because we're not in these factories. We're not in these production environments. Yeah. We're not at these poultry farms. What do you think is the simplest definition of why all of us do what we do, and how would you explain it to somebody that doesn't know anything about maintenance?
Well, the first thing I would do is keep it simple. That's the first thing I would do. And the second thing is remind them it's a journey, it's not a race, right? At the end of the day, and look, this is my slanted view of the world, in my opinion, we've been doing reliability, asset management, maintenance management for years. Look, when I started, we had a cue card that gave us on one side the asset nameplate information, on the back side gave us the schedule. And that was handed out every Thursday along with our paycheck, and that was our plan for the next week. And we just stayed on top of that stuff. And then we graduated to things like, you know, forms, printed out forms. And then, you know, we got even real cool with whiteboards. And then, you know, a true story here, John Sterling, which in the MP2 days of DataStream, I called him up and I said, I need help. And he goes, okay, I'll send you a disk. When you get it, phone me. I'm going to give you a key code, and that's going to be your help. And that's where the journey into the computerized stuff really took shape for me, in understanding that, look, less is more, right? So we know that there are things that computers and technology can help us with, but the one reality is at the end of the day, we still got to roll up the sleeves and do some work.
Yeah.
So it's really understanding and stepping back, taking a deep breath, and recognizing when people, and that should be our biggest priority, is to manage people, manage their change, manage their environment, help them, right, guide them, coach them, and then give them the tools that they need. And the tools don't have to have all of this big, flashy bling and swag. Some of those are just real shiny and don't do exactly what you want to do. It's giving them the tool that'll do what they need to do.
Yeah, now you and I talked about that before, and we got pretty real about it, you know, stuff we wouldn't necessarily want to record, but it's in the same kind of spirit of what you were just saying. And a lot of times the technology matters, it helps, but the people in the process, we're always going to come back to that, and that's why that message is really not going to change, because even when, and you tell me if this is kind of accurate, right? Because I don't necessarily know if I'm right or wrong, situation by situation. So if we've got a maintenance department and a reliability program that's moving well, and it incorporates technology that's actually gathering the data, giving the clues, keeping us kind of accountable, but documented so that we have all the right information, what invariably happens is there's some kind of a change. There's a leadership change, some couple of people on the team, they move on, they go somewhere, maybe somebody retires, or, you know, God forbid, something else, and now we get a disruption, and those things can very, very quickly fall apart. Have you seen that happen a lot?
Yeah, so much. So I kind of tell everybody in my world, at least this is my belief, there's three things that change all the time: needs, people, and technology. I was one of the guys that had a brick phone, you know, the James Bond crazy.
Yeah, the big.
Yeah. And now today I got an iPhone. So we know that stuff changes. And look, I rounded the quarter on 50 here a couple of years ago. I've changed. And I think as a consumer, let's just use the word consumer, I demand a lot more. So what that means to everybody is the requirements are changing all the time. And I think, you know, when folks get stuck on bricks and mortar type ideologies or thought processes, I think that's where it starts to fracture. Let's understand that, you know, one of the things that imminent in our world is change. And it's how we process change and its outcomes. That's really what's going to get us what we want, right? So when you start thinking about asset management and reliability and all that stuff, look, we've been doing that forever. You know, I told the CEO the other day, you know, would you ever buy a car that you would only drive 75% of the time? And he goes, no. And I said, so why would you put a piece of equipment in a plant and only expect it to operate 75% of the time?
That's an interesting analogy, man, because that drives it home. It's why, like when we're doing demos and we're doing presentations and we're talking to people, or we want to explain to somebody that doesn't know anything about this, we're always going back to, well, you know how you have your car and you see that check engine light come on. I think you and I talked about this. When the check engine light goes on, it's too late. Something is wrong. As opposed to if you have a good maintenance process in place, and it's typically very basic, right? I'm not even talking about optimizing your preventive maintenance schedule, but if you beat that, right, if you're ahead of that, blocking and tackling, right?
Exactly.
That is going to make the impact so that you have, what do we want? Availability, right? We need that car to be available right now. Well, that's the same with the equipment in your production environments, and that's all we're trying to do. And I think you and I talked about the kind of human part of it with there's kind of an intuitive nature to maintenance and reliability people that are, you know, of some measured quality and experience. Even some of the young ones, they're really paying attention. Machines aren't going to replace that. And this technology, like a hexagon, if leveraged properly, once that process is already there, now you can really get cooking. And it's not, I don't think it's like an empty promise of tomorrow if it's done right. But where do you think organizations fall down on that? Is it on the adoption? Is it on the initial selection? Is it how they decided in the first place? What do you think?
Well, I think one of the things that's out there is this, you know, this facade of a silver bullet. I think that's the first problem. There isn't one silver bullet. There's many. And when you look at people, process, products, and when I say that, it's the people that you're going to invest in, the processes or practices that you're going to invest in, and the technology that you're going to invest in, then invest in it. Be intentional, like Marty was talking about this morning, which I thought was really, really good. Go with intent. And one of the things to think about the intent is do your level best to keep the end in mind. Know that the journey there may take some turns, but it's still your intent to get to that end game, the North Star. And I think where people falter is, you know, he talked a little bit about kind of this lizard mind type thing of, you know, it trying to protect us sometimes from not falling into some pitfalls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is sometimes when we scale back or back off or shortcut, we can really challenge, what I call the 3 Ps, the people, the process, and the products. I think one of the things that we've seen grow and breed success is that investment in people and recognizing that not everybody's built the same. Not everybody appreciates change the same way. But if you can help them through change, you just got them better, which just made you better. And you look, products, hey, listen, Hexagon's an amazing product. I bought it when it was data stream. Myself implemented it.
Way back.
I stand behind it. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's first in its space. But you know what? That's me. There are other people that'll talk about the Maximos of the world, and there are other products out there that'll feel the same way, and that's built off the experiences that they were able to get in on. So in saying that is, when you're out there selecting a product, pick the product that's going to get you to the North Star.
Yeah.
Not because it's got a bunch of, swag and bling and, it's got 10,000 views and it's rating a 4.5. Well, that's everybody else's experience. That was their North Stars. What's your North Star?
Yeah. And so a lot of times I'll say, and a lot of the experts, I'm thankful to know that, kind of pour in the experiences to me so that I can learn this concept of what's the best solution. It's going to be the one that's going to, like you say, get you to your North Star, but it first has to be one that your people will use, that they will in fact adopt. And that change management component of things always brings me back to top down versus bottom up. I sometimes say top down just doesn't work that well. Bottom up also has its challenges. It's a little bit of both. Have you ever found situations where you come in, let's say they've got a Hexagon in place, and you're coming in there to help them really adopt it properly because maybe they need that hands-on experience that you've had? Where do you start when it comes to doing that initial assessment and like, hey, where do I start to help you the most? Is there kind of a process you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I can talk about a handful of experiences that we used an approach that looked like this. We know that the end user is key. They're probably the most vital and most important in this entire process or journey. So if they're going through pain and they've got hurt, we need to understand what exactly that is. Because as we recognize and get curious about their pain and their hurt, we can find remedies and solutions. And as their pain and their hurt and the remedies that get applied start to subside, guess what? So does the top. Now the top, I think, folks that are 50,000 feet or at arm's length need to recognize that they may not be necessarily holding onto the steering wheel, but they can have an input, some influence on the map that's being driven, and they should keep it at that level and not necessarily worry about, too many clicks and stuff like that. Let's let the end user who we're asking to be that person to give us the precision of the data and the information or the maintenance activity task, whatever that is. What do you really need? And when we know what they really need, and it is in alignment with the map and the vision that the top is looking for, it makes it a lot easier on that journey and that entire community to get to their North Star a lot quicker.
So with a lot of that story, I like this. Someone is going to be doing a presentation. I don't know if it's today or tomorrow, but they're going to be really leveraging the concept of ADCAR.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I talk about ADCAR, which I'm certainly not like the expert on that, but I like the concept because it actually is a pathway for these kinds of successes. And I think a lot of it lies in the R, which is where you are essentially reinforcing.
Yep.
And I think this is one area that we talked about this previously, but I want to talk about it now, where things do get moved, and I've talked about it, where it starts to fall away because they don't have protocols in place for that reinforcement where we're occasionally, hey, let's do a check-in and let's keep everybody accountable, not to jam you up, but to make sure we're all moving in the right direction. If we talk about, say, for example, a sports team, you know, they go, they do their stuff, they did all this work to get ready for the game, then after the game, you know, Monday morning or Tuesday morning, depends which night the game was, right?
Yep.
They're in there unpacking that whole thing.
Yep.
People haven't slept because they're reviewing film.
Yep.
And we're not saying to our maintenance team and our, say, management level as it relates to maintenance, we're not saying, hey, you got to do this every week. But some environments actually do that, and they do it really well, and it doesn't take as long as it did in the beginning. Have you ever seen a situation where you come in, they're overwhelmed, they're not buying in, they start kind of picking it up, and then they start doing those kind of reinforcing practices, and they get better and better? It doesn't get easier, but what I'm saying is they get better at doing something that's hard because it starts to become important.
Exactly. And, you know, I'll share with you, very fortunate and grateful to the ProSci group. I'm certified under ADCAR, and I couldn't agree with you more. Every letter is critically important, but the R by far stands out, because what happens is when you don't deploy the R with sustainment, people lose their way. And what happens is when people lose their way, it's human nature, I'm going to do whatever it takes that I know best so that I don't get fired or I don't get canned or I'm not the guy looking. And what happens is that starts to go a little bit sideways. And then when you've got a bunch of people going sideways, guess what? The whole deal is going to go sideways before long. Now, the model is, in my mind, solid. People need help with change. This whole concept that people can just change and all this, it's not true. You know, we need change every day, right? Let's say, you know, I was taking a drive to work, and I've been doing it for the last 5 years, and then tomorrow they put up signs that there's going to be construction and detours. Guess what? I'm pissed off. Well, what do you think happens when you tell a bunch of people in their operation that they come and spend with you all day? They earn their keep that way, and then you say to them, I'm going to change your day tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're frightened. They're scared. They go into this mode of, you know, fight or flight, and some of them look for jobs. Some of them push back. They don't want to do it. So stop it. Stop it, because that's self-inflicted wound by a paper cut, by 1,000 paper cuts. Embrace it. People need to change because the changes are coming to you as an organization. So to kind of duck out and think that people don't need help with that change, again, that's a self-inflicted wound. So understand, get curious about the change, and then start to foster the change. And recognize that you're going to put a change in place, and know that it's not bricks and mortar, because things are changing all the time. But in the R, reinforce it with, we got your back. We got your back through the change, and how we're going to do that is with X, Y, Z, and we're going to continue to refine it and let people know that you're not pulling the carpet from under their feet, you're not going to flip their world upside down, but that you understand the impacts that are on them. You foster kind of the change that's going to occur, but in fostering it, you're also going to provide the best capability that you can to help the change and continue to help to reinforce what that change looks like.
That, and just to kind of put something on that, it's not about hand holding.
No.
It's about empowering.
Exactly.
And when we say that, it's we want to encourage, and we also want to create the resources that they need. And like, hey, we understand change is difficult, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Nope.
And you gotta be willing to be vulnerable to that change
100%.
that you hate, and that's not easy. I empathize with that because I can't stand change. Even if you tell me, hey, by doing this change, you're going to get here, and now you're going to yield all these benefits in your day-to-day. For all of us as an organization, I'm still going to be like a little baby, like, man, this is too much because I was in a groove, and you just jammed me up. You know, like you said, my favorite route to work, now I got to go way out of my way. I can't hit my favorite coffee on the way and get to work just on time or a few minutes early and do my stuff, it just screws everything up.
Yeah.
However, if we can practice that, be self-aware and say, you know what, yeah, I don't like this, but I gotta find a way to do it because we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're dealing with kind of individuals and an entire team, and that's that cohesion that you get with the people and process being in place. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to talk about that part of ADCAR. Do you have any other favorite philosophies or things in maintenance and reliability that you like to kind of make sure you get to when you're working with clients, teaching a class, or giving a speaking session? Anything other than not ADCAR, but something that you're like, man, this is something I always want to talk about?
I always want to talk about curiosity. Stay curious. There's no right or wrong, but be curious and learn. Learning's the biggest part of this deal. It's the biggest part of this deal. And if you can continue to be curious, you can continue to learn. The next thing I would say is have patience. I'm going to equate some stuff. So I coach rep hockey out in Canada, rep team U16. And look, we all have teenagers and we know what they can be like, and U16 boys, you can just imagine what they're like. And, one of the things we talked about was their ability to be resilient. And some ways to be resilient is to be curious. It's to learn, it's to be patient, it's to become resourceful, ask the questions that you need to ask. There's nothing dumb. And, we had a conversation just a few weeks ago because, the Philadelphia Eagles, they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then the U.S. and Canada, two fantastic teams, just amazing hockey. There was a championship won there, right? And one of the things that we talked about is all of those folks, all of those people that contributed and participated in those ceremonies, in just the, maybe it's a bad word, the climax of winning. They were all curious. They all learned. They were all patient. And they continue hard to hone their craft. So, I get it. There's a lot of hard work that goes into everything. But if you continue to practice, you continue to find those things that you love and you enjoy, you continue to learn more about them, and then you continue to do them every day, you're just going to continue to find the roads of happiness as you go along. Or you're going to find a road that's not making you happy, and guess what? Change pops in, and it's how we process change is what takes us to the next step. So those are the things that I feel pretty passionate about. I'm a lifelong learner, and look, and I'm my biggest critic. So what I can tell you is, don't kill the critic, but just slow the critic down. But be the biggest learner, the most curiosity, the person with the most curiosity out there, and just continue to learn and know that everything happens in this world for a reason. I'm here talking today. It happened for a reason, and maybe that reason is to kind of share what we're talking about today. And if it goes out to one person, it helps their day be a little bit more better, or find some solution, some remedy, or some happiness, then guess what? It was all worth it. I'll do this as much as I can, because at the end of the day, I'm grateful to all the mentors, all the people being here today, and all of the people that I've been able to interact with in my life, because they've helped me have this conversation with you today, and I can't forget that.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I love that you said if one person.
Just one.
I know we're at an event. Usually I do these on the virtuals, but I want to knock out the 3 fun questions I always do for first timers on CMMS Radio. And just for everybody, this is not just CMMS Radio. This is a collaboration with Reliability X.
Yep.
A lot of you might know George Williams out there. He helped me with this brilliant setup here. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Alex Bolin with Digital Thinker, because he made this happen too. And I'm learning a lot, making great connections. But let's have a little bit of fun as we wrap this session up.
Do it.
Fun question number 1. No wrong answers on any of this stuff. What is your favorite music?
Oh, country, man.
All right. I like it.
Luke Combs. You know, all of this new country is amazing. I love every part of it, and hope to get some concerts here real soon.
Cool. Fun question number 2. I probably know the answer, but it doesn't matter. What is your favorite sport or hobby? And in sport, if it's sport, it doesn't have to be one that you play.
Hockey. If I could be on the ice every week for 2-3 times a week, either coaching or playing, that's where I love to be.
Nice.
It's a place of happiness, a place of safety, and it's a place of love, and I've loved it every minute.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I know some hockey guys that have actually played. You know, because once it's all done, they all get together and they keep playing in these leagues and stuff like that, well into their 50s, man. Yeah. I love to hear about those stories and how they've still got that camaraderie and passion for the game. Here's the big one. No wrong answers here. What is your philosophy, perspective, opinion, anything at all on the concept of work-life balance?
Well, that's a big one. Keep it as balanced as you possibly can be. Because you know what? Work's always going to be there. Time is always of the essence. And get in as much fun as you can on the things that you want to do, you love to do. If you got a bucket list, get them done.
Nice.
Work's always going to be there. Give back to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be generous to yourself. And, you know, some of us are out there thinking, well, we can't have this and we can't have that. You can have anything you want. Go get it.
I love it. Joe, thanks for being here with me on CMMS Radio, live from Streamline Asset Management User Conference in Greenville, South Carolina.
It's been awesome. Thanks for having me.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.